Hi, I'm Spiky. Welcome to my clinic. Now, who are you and what do you do for a living?
I'm Alex, and I'm a psychologist. I'm a psychotherapist. I'm a trainer in ICPS College. Um, I work with children when they are grieving their parent, or the opposite, with parents that they grieve their children. Mm, and I'm a researcher too.
What makes you a professional dreamer and what do you like about it?
I suppose that dreaming is a way out, always in reality, when you have very difficult conditions to work with and difficult issues like children with children in grief. Then you have to keep a specific place inside of you that you can always change the reality into something more dreamy. So I was always, as a person that the other people would say, look at him, like he's always in his own mind, he's never concentrated. And I was always dreaming about things. Um, Even in some occasions when I was younger, I was always dreaming about how to get somewhere in the beginning, and I was always passionate about things. And maybe other people would say we need to go step by step, but I would always see the end of the line and dream about how things would be. This is a nice thing when it happens, but it's not a very nice thing when things are not going as you always want them to go. Um, so I suppose it's something like my skin. It's not something like I can't put aside when I speak about myself. It's very helpful when we are stressed, I suppose, to have an alternative, to have an alternative from the reality that you can escape from.
What challenges have you faced as a youth worker?
I suppose when I was in the university, one thing that I said about psychology and how would I be a practitioner and with whom I would work with, I was always thinking about to avoid working with children because it was always for me a very sensitive issue, and it was a matter of great responsibility. There is a Greek saying about never say something because it will come like the opposite, or when you say something, the God is laughing for what you say. And this was the case here. Um, I have never, I have never stopped working with children since then. I have worked with children, with refugee children coming from Syria, Pakistan, Afghanistan in 2015 in Samos. Then I have worked with children in the counseling center for grief. I suppose the most difficult part working when you work with children is um, the things that are done to children from other people, like that they don't have the freedom to escape from conditions. And this is a very frustrating thing because when you work with a child, you see that there is nothing to do there because the child as itself is an organism that is connected with organismic values, organismic needs, and then you see how frustrating it is that the conditions that are coming from other people near the child are creating uh, all this distress to child. And another difficult part is working with parents. I suppose that parents, new age parents, if we say like the parents that I work now with, they are really anxious about their children. They have, um, they want for the children to be perfect in everything, like sports, academics, and everything. And you see that the children, the children cannot cope with the expectations of their parents. This is a very difficult thing.
What does burnout mean for you? Give some examples.
Burnout for me is when you have a very big workload, when you have, but also when you don't have many things to do in your work, or when you do things for a long period of time and you have somehow the work is not something that you are trying to find new ways in order to cope with the work. So it's not only when you have a big workload, but when you don't have a lot of work to do, maybe you are leading yourself to burnout as well. So, some examples of burnout. When you don't have the will to do things with people that you love, when you prefer to be isolated and you don't have the amount of energy to go out and meet people and socialize, maybe this is something that when it's related with a very high workload or a very low workload, a low satisfaction from your work in general. Another example is when you are very irritated somehow and you cannot cope with things, especially in our work, when you don't have the capacity anymore to see with empathy the inner world of your client. Um, when you see things and you're not sensitive anymore. You used to be sensitive about things that you listen, and now you're somehow numb about things. You don't um, you don't pay attention, and sometimes when you're not the same in ethics, like you're not ethical anymore. You say, okay, I will work with another, and then you see that your work is not good anymore, but you don't do something about that.
If burnout was a dragon, how would you describe it?
Good question. I suppose it's a dragon, it's a friendly dragon, because somehow you have learned to live with this dragon. It's not a scary one, um, but also very difficult to be with this dragon in the same place. Like maybe this dragon has a lot of spikes, and when you are near, you just scratching your body. But then this dragon is really persuasive. He talks to your ear and says like, "Don't stop, continue. You're worthless. Maybe like you have to work more in order to have some inner value." So it's a very persuasive dragon, a very friendly one, and a very harmful at the same time.
Okay. Oops. Sorry. How did burnout impact your life and how did you deal with it?
I don't see burnout as a state. I see burnout as um, something that you have in your life at some levels. Like there are some times that maybe um, you have more burnout and then you have less, especially when you do a lot of things. And I was always a person that was doing a lot of things, and I think that when I'm dealing well with burnout, there are periods that I can find joy in what I do. When I do things, and then I go away from the things that I do and I have a smile on my face, It's a period that I'm dealing with burnout better. This is a great um, a great part of information for myself because when you work a lot, then you can understand really what is the things that you do, different things that you do, that brings you joy and satisfaction. So when I'm on things that are creative, like teaching young people in the college or creating something, I find myself in a relief of work, of stress related with work and burnout. When I do things that are repeated and I have to do again the same and the same and the same, I understand that it's a period that I will experience bigger levels of burnout and stress. Another thing is when I can focus on other things as well, like personal life and music also. Through music, and I find myself um, escaping from all the stress.
What did you learn from your experience?
So I've learned that it's a very important thing to transform your reality. If you do things that are repeated and you don't find the place to be in what you do, let's say a machine would do the same work with you, then I found myself like I'm always in stress. So a very important thing is to be engaged in what you do and find meaning. The second thing is that when I have performance anxiety, I see myself being really stressed about things. This has to do with my image of a super part of me that does everything well and never makes a mistake. When I am detached from this personal identity, I find myself in an ease. These are the two things that I've learned about burnout.
Now, if you could send a message to a younger self, what would you say to help them prevent burnout?
It's a very difficult question for me because I'm a person that I never listen no one. When I want to do things, I do them, and then I have to learn from my experience. But let's try to to give a message to the younger self. I would say please try and find things that make you happy, give you satisfaction, and be safe with what you do. Be safe with your capacity and don't push yourself to over exceed your capacity. Please be thoughtful because time will bring you things that maybe your enormous effort will not.